was a cornerback 2 years ago. What have you seen from his growth over the last year and from him in the spring so far?
Well, yeah, it was a little longer than 2 years ago, but he was still kind of playing that hybrid spot. Even in his last couple years of high school, but as a freshman, sophomore, I think he was playing corner. It's funny, if you do any digging, you can find a picture of him as a young buck, and he looks a little different looking dude. But he's becoming more confident, which is what you want. You want confident players that know what's going on, and that's certainly the case for him. Still working on just, transitioning to being a true backer, that things just happen a lot faster. But he's got great length and can run as well as any of them, and certainly looks the part. So I'm excited to see, where he goes from here. But he's doing a tremendous job just because he's becoming more confident and knows what he's doing.
Coach Leipold said basically when you bring in new guys, a lot of times there's a tendency for guys already in the program to kind of elevate it and step up. Who have you maybe seen that from so far? Yeah,
that's definitely happening with John. Certainly with Logan Brantley, and really all of them. And we've always had a culture of competition that we've tried to stress that and emphasize that, so that guys know that they're going to work their butts off, and things will pay off in the end if they do. But you start bringing some other guys in that maybe come from other programs, and the guys that are in-house seem to elevate a little quicker, if that makes sense. It just happens a little faster for them because they have a little more sense of urgency. Logan is limited right now, but he is as locked in as he's been since he's been here, really. So those two in particular, but really all of them are doing a good job of that.
I know it's still early with this group, but when you think about this group of linebackers you have right now compared to ones you've had in the past, what's the biggest difference between them?
Just some of the, maybe a little athleticism, and just some of the natural, Cornell Wheeler was a guy that just had some natural football instincts. Okay, so some of these guys are just coming in with probably a little bit better natural football instincts, between the, Bengali and Joseph Sipp and Trey, and, these guys are coming in with some of that out the gate. We tend to take some guys sometimes when you recruit them out of high school, you take guys that just haven't had to do it at this level and know all the details that are involved. So some of it's always, there's a little bit of a projection. John's an example. You know what I'm saying, where he was, like you said, playing corner at one point in time. So now you get some guys that are coming in the door that have been there and done that. So they just have some of those instinctive things that sometimes you just have to get over time. They have that coming in the door.
Coach Leipold mentioned Bengali as someone that has caught his attention, just watching him run around. What impressed you watching him at South Carolina or Pitt? And I know you recruited him the first time around, but generally, what were the things that you liked about him, and what have you seen from him since he's been here?
Yep, had a conversation or two with Bengali when he was leaving Pitt, and then as you stated, kind of ended up at South Carolina. Just his some of that natural stuff that I'm talking about. Obviously, he's got good length. He runs well. Athletics still working with him to even take what he is and make it even better. Can still work on bending those hips a little bit more, and just things that backers need to work on across the board. But he is one of the examples that I'm giving that just has some natural, instinctive things. Sometimes it almost looks like he's one of these guys that looks like he's not even trying sometimes, because he's just a natural, efficient mover. Because then all of a sudden you're like, oh, geez, he makes some plays out there. He's going to be productive for us, put it that way.
Cornell, he became a leader over the course of his career here. Is there any guys, or one guy in particular, who could maybe take that step that Cornell took?
Yep. Still searching for that. Still searching for that, and in many cases, almost forcing it. Sometimes as coaches, you have to have a feel for your room and/or your unit or the team, and figure out, if there's not the natural leader in the room, then we have to kind of take that over and help develop it internally. So we're kind of going through that process. That's part of why I love the spring. I just said it to the guys after our little scrimmage today, is we don't have to worry about Saturday right now. It's going to get here eventually, but we can have some moving pieces and allow some time for some guys to develop as leaders and players. So we're still fighting through that process and working through that. But I think Jason Gilliam is a guy that's been a leader for us in the past and will continue to be. These guys that are walking in the door, like I said, Bengali, I think what's going to happen is the more they're around and the more they continue to make plays out there, the more they're going to become confident with their voices. As I stated with John being confident in what he's doing, there's a level of confidence that you got to have to be able to feel like you can say something if there's those times present. You know what I'm saying? So we're getting to the point where I think some guys are ready to take a step. I'll be interested to see what happens here after spring break, because we'll get a little chance to hit the reset button, and the newness is kind of gone. So we'll come back and almost, not start over, but pick up where we left off and see some of these guys flourish as players and leaders.
Just following up on that real quick, you said in some ways kind of forcing it. What does that look like? I know you're trying to let it play out naturally, but when you say forcing it, what is that? Talking to guys? Is that on the field or both?
Yep, all of the above. You're putting them in situations where they have to take control. Whether it's in my position, whether it's in the meeting room, asking guys to speak up and have to articulate thoughts, okay? You have to first know what you're doing, which allows you to have the confidence to say what you need to say. But then it's, okay, now let's put them in those situations where nothing's going to happen unless you say something. You know what I'm saying? So you're forcing those scenarios and those situations, or I always try to tell guys to find opportunity. It's just taking a rep. You're taking another rep. Find an opportunity to lead somebody, even if it's not the room. It might be a guy, okay? And then you kind of just get in their ear a little bit and be like, hey, see such and such over there? Go holler at him for a minute. He's not hustling or whatever the case is. So you're finding those opportunities to help create that internally. And then guys just gain reps, just like when they're playing, and they get more confident to say something and do something when they see something.
When someone like Bengali comes in who has a history of playing at multiple different positions and multiple different schemes, do you have an initial idea when you bring him in of where he fits in your system, or is it something where you need to see him on the field to figure out exactly what kind of spot he'd be best suited for?
A little bit of both. But I think for a guy like him, you're looking at skill sets, and then you're looking at what it is that you're doing schematically that matches those skill sets. So you're putting guys in position that they can use what they're doing to their advantage and our advantage. And certainly he's one of those guys that has a broad skill set, so we should be able to use him in a lot of different ways, whether he's a stack backer or coming off the edge or whatever the case is. There's a number of things that he can do for you, and you see those things at his previous spots. So it makes it a little bit easier to say, yeah, he can do that when you've seen it on film already. John, you coming out of the bullpen over there?
I was going to ask you what's it been like with new coaches on the defensive staff. I know you've been with Lance for a long time, and how's that all coming together chemistry-wise?
Good, great. We've got, the funny thing is the way things work out right now in this day and age is that a lot of times guys that you're working with were already in the building in some way, shape, or form. So they're just maybe escalating their situation. So that's the case with us. You know what I'm saying? With Brandon Shelby being an analyst and now on the field, and some other guys that have already been here are working with us. We bring in some new analysts with Joe Deneen coming back home and Matthew Burkett and whatnot. So some different voices and maybe different styles. It's always good, even for a old head like myself. It just allows me to grow as well, which is a benefit. And it's changing some things schematically. I've been doing the same thing for a long time. It almost makes me feel rejuvenated and re-energized, that I've almost changed jobs without having to relocate, if that makes sense, because I'm learning some different things, which has been really exciting. And same thing with our players. It's been good seeing some of the change and some of the things that we're doing. And I think it'll show up on Saturdays, this fall.
mentioned Joe there. He's a Kansas guy, but what has he brought to the defensive staff overall?
Well, I tell you, Joe has been good because he was here previously. Okay, so he can speak on maybe what it used to be versus what it is, and but yet he's had some experiences in between there. So that's been really good for us, I think, to be able to know what it used to be, and he can then articulate that to the players as well. And he's a really good football coach. You know what I'm saying? He's smart, he's intelligent, he knows the game. So he's helping out, grabbing some younger guys and working well with Coach Anatolu. Coach Anatolu's handling special teams and working with the DNs. But Coach Deneen is kind of working hand in hand with him, with Coach O taking the charge.
Is there an advantage to a guy like Trey Lathan having experience within the Big 12 already?
I think so. We've almost even referenced that in many situations where we're talking about some of these new guys talking about here's what we see a lot in this league. You know what I mean? We see a lot of this or that in this conference, and Trey can help, emphasize that and stress that and either agree or disagree. But you know what I'm saying? Like he's able to know some of the things that we're doing, and then of course I'll mess with him every now and again. Now he's got to go get after West Virginia's quarterback instead of cheer for him. So he's still got friends back there, and rightly so. And but he's doing a great job for us, and excited he's wearing crimson and blue now.
And then how's Joseph Sipp done? I figure he's probably a guy that looked better once the pads came on than he did running around a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's doing a good job. Again, he's another one. Like I said, some of these guys just have some natural feel, some natural instincts, and he's one of those for sure. He's able to just kind of get himself in position, continuing to learn. All three of those transfers are, as well as the incoming freshmen, the early enroll freshmen. But for those guys, it's a little bit more of a translation. They're just having to take what they maybe already knew and convert it to our language, which they're doing that. It'll really be good after spring ball, like I already stressed and emphasized, because our install will slow down significantly. We've thrown a lot at him in the first part of this thing, but when we get back, it'll start to taper off, and we'll just keep running the same stuff over and over again, so we can continue to clean things up. And I think those guys will really be playing fast by the time we get through practice 15.